Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Joining me today is Kalavai Venkat as we look at this PAHALGAM incident. We're going to look at it from all angles. Plus, first, why are the perps still free? This is 400 kilometers from the border. How are they managing to get in and how did they manage to escape? Have they already left back and reached Pakistan? All these questions and more. And we are going to be able to tell you exactly where things are going wrong. And Kalavai has worked a lot of time spent a lot of time trying to look at all the data to compare, give us a compelling narrative. Let's welcome him. Venkatji, namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel. How are you?
Namaskaram. I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Kalavai Venkatji. Thanks for taking this hangout such late at night. We are, it's 9:30 p.m. in where you live, and
That's
thank you
okay.
so much for that.
No
So
issue.
let's jump right in. Viewers first, please like this video. Venkatji is going to look at this from a slightly different angle. How did the pups even escape? That's not possible without having some inside help. This is beyond all the things that we have seen. So we're going to show you some videos also. You'll be shocked at some of the videos there. And now let me just hand the floor to you. So over to you, sir.
Namaskaram, everyone. So I want to start today's program because it's a very tragic event. What happened in Pelgam on the 22nd, 27 persons were shot dead. Out of them, 25 were Hindus. One was a Christian. One was a Muslim. We'll come to the Muslim later, but all of them were shot dead for only one reason. They failed the Kalma test and the circumcision test. So let me give a little bit of background before I deep dive into the questions. So Pahalgam is a very popular tourist destination in Kashmir. So it's not closer to the border. It on the road it takes about 450, 460 kilometers to get to Pahalgam. And Pahalgam is not reachable by car or anything. You have to go up to Pahalgam, but from there to get to the meadows or the Besaran meadows, you have to take the pony. You have to go about 7 kilometers on the pony to get to the destination. And that's where the jihad, the terrorist killing of Hindus happened. And uh, all of them were first asked to recite the Kalma or the Islamic prayer. And when they did not or refused to recite, they were shot dead before their wives, their children, and their women folk. And then the women pleaded with them. Some of the women pleaded with them. Two of them, after seeing their husbands being shot dead, pled with the terrorists, kill us too. They said, no, go tell Modi. That was the message. This happened on the 22nd. But before we get to 22nd, because we'll be all completely blindsided by all the other facts, much of the reality, if we only focus on that day. We should go back to the 20th, 2 days before, to understand the overall plot. So there is an exceptional person. Her name is Ekta Tiwari. So she had taken her family. Her husband accompanied her. She's a Jat woman from Jaunpur in Uttar Pradesh, and she is married to a Tiwari. And then she had taken her family, I think about 15 or 20 people, many of them women, many of them children. And then she had hired the ponies on the 20th. That was 2 days before the massacre. And then she was going on the pony when three individuals turned out to be suspicious. And it would so turn out 2 days later, from the sketches released by the security forces, those were three of the terrorists who had killed the Hindus and others in Pelgam. So here is what happened. And one of the terrorists engaged her in discussion. He inquired about her religion. He asked the religion of all of the folks who were accompanying her. He asked her, have you read the Quran? He asked her, who is your favorite God? Whom do you worship? And then while he was interrogating, she was surprised by a lot of facts. Number one, he was very aggressive. She did not like it. And number two, she was surprised that a ponywala, a pony operator, uh, was speaking pretty good English. So she asked him, and then he said, well, I used to be a teacher for 11 years, and now I'm doing this work. And that struck her as very odd. Okay, even if you didn't like teaching job, you are not going to become a pony operator. Okay, that's the lowest paying job. Tough job. Nobody is going to take it up. And how come he's speaking such a good English? And then he made an offer to her. Uh, he asked her a lot of questions. He asked her, have you been to, uh, other places, where there are dargahs and other things? She said no. And have you been to Amarnath? Amarnath is a very famous pilgrimage center for Hindus. It's a shrine of Lord Shiva, and it is very close to Pahalgam. So he asked her, have you been there? She said no. And then, but I want to go there. So he said, if you want to go there, don't go through the government registration. It's very cumbersome. So you let me know what date you are coming, and then we will organize your trip. You have to just give us the date, and any of the pony walas will take you to Amarnath without all the government registration. She got extremely suspicious. And then another incident happened. Uh, Another terrorist. Later on, she would learn that he was a terrorist, right? At the time, she did not. He caught hold of her brother, held him by his collar, and then pulled off the Rudraksha. That Rudraksha is the bead he was wearing around the neck. He pulled it off. This was strange behavior because, a lot of the pony wallahs are there for livelihood and they are not going to aggressively attack their customers. But this happened. But the third one was even more disconcerting to her. There was a third terrorist, and he was carrying a cell phone. From her description, it looks like a very small sized satellite phone. And in that phone, he gave a few messages. He was talking in Urdu, but he was a little bit distance away from her and he was talking. But then this woman had absolutely great situational awareness. She paid attention to every word that was spoken. And he said, I have sent 35 rifles up today. And then he added that I have sent them along with the cylinders, the LPG cylinders used for cooking. She became extremely suspicious, even though she could not have anticipated that a terror attack was going to take place. She became very suspicious. So 500 meters before the Basaran meadow, there is a small gate that gets you in. Before going there, she decided to turn around. Her family protested. They said, why don't we just, we are this close, why don't we go there and take some photographs and come back? She said, no, I don't like this. Something is wrong. Okay, something is totally off. We are returning. Okay. And then two of the uh, Kacharwale, those pony operators, they came to her and said, ma'am, आप वापस चले जाइए यहाँ पे safe नहीं है. Meaning, madam, go back. This place is not safe. Okay, they just whispered into her ears. She returned and then she survived. And what she did was subsequently, she didn't have time, right? She couldn't have anticipated a terror attack. She knew something was off. She did not like it. Her premonition told her to get out of there. She took the family and got out. She didn't even stop for a cup of tea. She headed out, left Jammu and Kashmir, then called the police. Okay? But I think at that time, on the 20th, 2 days before the incident, even the police wouldn't have been able to connect all of the dots. Now, let me pause for a minute and bring up this question. Okay, many of us ask the question, right? How did the terrorists get in there? Was there a security failure? Was there an intel failure? And how did they escape from there? Now pay attention to this. All of the Poniwalas, they belong to one community. They belong to the Gujar community, and they are all Shia Muslims. It's impossible for any outsider to penetrate them because they operate as a caste group. So how did three terrorists accompany them, and they were posing as pony operators and they were guiding the tourists, and then they were checking their religion. This happened every day. They checked their religion, then they noted down all the information, and then they asked them for their phone numbers, okay, under the pretext of we'll guide you to Amarnath and all of these things, and then they did it. So this could not have happened without the active collusion of the ponywalas, all the pony operators. Otherwise, these folks could have never got in there. And then number two, uh, 35 rifles. We know there were between 4 and 7 terrorists. 4 of their sketches have been released, but then all the eyewitnesses recount that there were as many as 7 terrorists over there. And but why 35 rifles? That means there are probably more terrorists out there, and which means there could be more terrorist attacks in the coming days. And then pay attention to one more thing. Where are those rifles being hidden? Uh, because 35 rifles were sent up just 2 days before the terrorist attack happened. For how many days this kind of transport of weapons has been happening? Has it been happening for 10 days, 5 days? Who knows? And where were the weapons? Where are the weapons being hidden? We do not know that yet. But here is even more disturbing detail. Uh, the person, the terrorist, when he was talking over the satellite phone with his handlers in Pakistan, he said, "We have packed them along with the cylinders, with the LPG cylinders for cooking, and we have sent it up." Now, every one of you who has been to either Amarnath or to uh, Pelgam or for Chardham Yatra or any other place, you would have noticed something. It is the ponies that carry all the LPG cylinders. Typically, you'll find two of these cylinders are tied to the pony, one hanging on each side. They take it there and then they hand it over to the shopkeeper and he will start cooking with it. Now, if you are going to pack the rifles along with the cylinders and transport it, it has been done out of sight of public gaze. Where was it done? That means some of the cylinder distributors uh, based out of Pahalgam or elsewhere in Kashmir, they were hand in glove with it. It was packed and it was sent. And then the shopkeepers in Pahalgam, where the massacre took place, where the terror attack took place, they knew this. That's why they uh, would have, because otherwise they could not have separated the rifles and the cylinders and then made sure the rifles reached the right hands of the terrorists. So all of this confirms 2 points to us. Number one, the local population was hand in glove with the terrorists. Everybody was involved. The poniwalas were involved. All of them were involved because this kind of recce has been happening every single day. Okay, we assume, based on the initial reports, that the terrorists came in from the forest. They did not. Okay. Now the testimony is absolutely clear. 2 days before, three of the terrorists were accompanying all the tourists on the ponies. Okay, they were guiding the ponies. They were pretending to be the pony operators. That means they were not hiding in the forest. They were rather um, staying and they were being hosted by the local Muslims, by the pony operators, by the hoteliers, by the LPG cylinder distributors, logistics providers, everyone, all of whom are local Kashmiri Muslims. They were hosting these terrorists, and these terrorists melted into the Poniwala crowd, melted into the tourist crowd. They came all the way there. They entered through the gate, and then from wherever they had hidden the rifles, they took them out and they shot them. And why the 22nd of April? So this is where I would request every one of you to listen to the interview of Lieutenant General DP Pandey, which was conducted by Smita Prakash. So in that, DP Pandey points out that there will be many more attacks to come. Okay, and one of the suspicions I have is, which is the next target? Is it going to be Amarnath? Because the Amarnath pilgrimage will start very soon, and the people will start setting up shops, and the pilgrims will start coming in. Is that what they are targeting? Is that why they have shipped so many of these rifles, and so many of these terrorists have come? And we are thinking there are anywhere between 4 and 7 who participated in that act, but I think the likelihood is there are many more. This is number one. Then the second point we should remember is what happened on the 22nd of April. These fellows, as Lieutenant General Pandey points out, they planned every minute detail. We already talked about how they um, became part of the pony operator network. I will treat all of them as terrorists, and all the hoteliers are terrorists, all the shopkeepers are terrorists. I will treat them exactly that way because they all were in the know. Okay, that's why when Ekta Tiwari was 500 meters before and she wanted to turn around, a couple of them said, "Ma'am, aap chale jaiye. Ma'am, go away. This place is not safe." How did they know that? Because uh, everyone was in on the plan and they warned. And towards the end of the podcast, I'll come to the reason why they alerted. Okay. And I don't think it is out of any generosity, out of any goodwill, but I'll come to that later on. So Lieutenant General Pandey also points out they planned every detail. They waited for the 22nd because the 2 prior days it had rained. Whereas 22nd was the day when it was bright, sunny. They waited until 12:30 or whatever time it was, when there was a large crowd that had gathered there in the meadows, and then they opened fire. How did they open fire? I will now request Sri to play that video of the zipliner operator. So while he brings up the video, let me give a little bit of background. So here is a person by name Rishi
Allah,
Bhatt.
Allahu
Yeah,
Akbar.
Yeah, I'll
hang
bring
on
it
one
back.
second. Yeah,
Finish. You
yeah.
finish your stuff and then we'll play it. Yeah.
So the person you are seeing wearing this red color helmet, he's a tourist. He's a
Blue.
Hindu. Yeah, sorry, the blue color helmet. His name is Rishi Bhatt. Okay, he's a Hindu tourist. He had gone there with his family. I think there are 5 members in his family. He was the only male adult, and they were all taking the zip line. And his wife and his children had taken the zip liner first, and the fellow standing next to him is the zip line operator. He did not say anything when those 4 or 5 people went first, but just when Rishi Bhatt was about to start ziplining, this operator shouts Allahu Akbar thrice, and then the firing starts as if on a cue. Play the video, please.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. बैठो पैर लंबा करो
You can pause. You can
Shots are
do, you,
continuously going off.
the shots are continuously going on, and you would have noticed a few things, right? Something would have struck you as odd, but let me explain. Why is this person smiling even when the gunshots are ringing in the background? That's because he's having an adrenaline high. Okay, he was looking for a thrill in the zipliner ride, and those people are usually not attuned to the environment, and their senses usually shut down to the rest of things happening in the environment because he's looking for a thrilling ride and the adrenaline surge. That's why he's not hearing that. Okay, but as soon as the operator said Allahu Akbar thrice, you can see the gunshots start to ring. Okay, and this was so well coordinated. They had done this to create that special effect. We can do this with precision, and we'll do it in a very religious angle with a very Islamic fervor. We'll call out Allahu Akbar thrice, and then the gunshots will ring. This is how it was done. And on that day when this was happening, uh, the first story that came out was more than anything, this story got a lot of attention. So there was one poniwala by the name Syed Adil Shah, and then the media started reporting that he tried to save the tourists. He tried to snatch the rifle from one of the terrorists, and he was shot dead in return. Of course, I do not believe the story one bit, and I had written about this in detail, and I do not believe the story one bit because, as you can see from the previous video, as well as from all the descriptions that are given out by the survivors, those terrorists shot all the victims from about 4 to 5 meters away. So how do you go with a bare hand and snatch an automatic rifle, an M4 in this case, or an AK-47, from a terrorist who is firing rapid shots at you? That's impossible. Even a trained soldier won't be able to do that. And then for a pony operator to do that is simply unbelievable. And then what then probably happened is one of the two. The best case scenario is this person, um, this pony operator, as I told you earlier, he's a Gujar by caste and a Shia Muslim by religion. And the terrorists are all Sunni Muslims. And then the Sunni Muslims hate Shias. They consider them to be apostates. And then the kalma, which they recite, the kalma starts with La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. And then, whereas for the Shia, they also add this, what is that? Wa Ali, whatever, that, the third sentence they add towards the end, Wali kum, something like that. I forgot what it was. They add that towards the end. And had he recited that, they would have known that he was a Shia and would have anyway killed him. So if he kept quiet because he didn't want to recite and divulge his identity, he would have still been shot dead. Okay, that is the best case scenario. But the question that arises in my mind is, all the other poniwalas were Shia too. Why were they not shot dead? The suspicion I have is this person who was shot dead was involved in the overall terrorism activity, in the overall terrorism planning, and he was some kind of a witness the terrorists wanted to eliminate. They did not want to leave him behind because he was a bigger liability, so he got eliminated. Now, if after all the investigation it really turns out that he was an innocent victim, I will sympathize with him. But as of now, I do not believe that's the case. And as I explained earlier, what happened on the 20th, all the other Poniwalas were aware of these terrorists. These terrorists were part of the Poniwala network. And as I told you, these all belong to the same caste. They form a tight knit community. So there are no secrets among them. So if all the other Poniwalas knew who the terrorists were and that a terror attack was going to take place, and then this person also knew about it, so I don't think he played the role of a good Samaritan and tried to save anyone. So this is what happened on the day, and this is precisely the reason we should not straight away believe the stories of Muslims came to our rescue. In fact, nobody did. I'll give some other example. And one of the soldiers, one of the persons killed was Lieutenant Vinay Narwal. Vinay Narwal is a Navy officer, and he got married 6 days prior to getting killed. I think he was married on the 16th of April, 22nd he got killed. So uh, the army general, whom I mentioned earlier, DP Pandey, he mentioned that all of the hoteliers and everyone should be treated as suspects because they would have passed on information about the guests, including Vinay Narwal, who is a Navy officer, and he was given a special treatment. He was not only shot dead before his wife, but they shot him in such a way that he remained alive for almost 30-35 minutes. His sister has described that in a video where she said he was alive for 30-35 minutes. Because these are professional killers, they knew how to shoot somebody so that he will slowly bleed to death and not die immediately. Because he was a Navy officer, a special treatment was reserved for him. And that video is also going to be added to the link, and people should watch that. Those are all really gut-wrenching videos, but you should watch. And next, what happened? Just pay attention, right? You are a shopkeeper there, or you are a poniwala there, and you are working. And then and let's say you are totally innocent, you do not know anything about the terrorist attack that's going to take place. Now in the meadows, automatic rifle fire is going on, and everybody is panicking and running. What will be your reaction? You will also run away, but not a single poniwala ran away. Not a single shopkeeper ran away. Okay, even though people are getting shot dead right in front of their eyes. And this can only happen if everybody was in the know and they were absolutely certain that none of them will be harmed and only the Hindus will be singled out and they would be shot dead. And one Christian was singled out and shot dead, one Sushil Nathaniel, and he openly admitted, he said, I am a Christian, I do not know anything about Kalma. Boom, they shot him in the chest. He died on the spot. So there were no innocent people there. None of them came to the rescue. And all of the women, they literally ran. They ran about 7 kilometers from there before they encountered the first police officer or the first soldier. And then they sought some kind of a, help. And even then, and I should add one more thing. And then there were some of these women who couldn't even run because their husbands had been killed. What do? Do they leave the body of their husband and try to run? Or do they just sit there and wait for their own fate? But by the time the terrorists had dispersed, the tourists did not know where they had all gone. They had dispersed. They kept firing for about 25 to 30 minutes. Then they dispersed. And then when the army soldiers came in about 45 minutes after the shooting started. And when the Indian army soldiers came, the women panicked. They thought the terrorists had returned because the terrorists, when they originally came, they were also wearing fatigues. Those fatigues are easy to get, and they were wearing those fatigues. And then the women thought that the same terrorists had now returned either to kill them or to rape them. So they were screaming in panic. Then the soldiers said, no, we are from the Indian army. We are here to rescue you. Then these women were all huddled and they were having a frightening look. And then they looked at they turned their gaze at the Kashmiri Muslims, who were the ponywalas, who were the shopkeepers, and who were the zipline operators and others. They looked at them with terrible fear. And this is something I relate to very easily because I've seen this many times. In the early 90s, at the peak of terrorism, I used to travel a lot in Kashmir. Every nook and corner of Kashmir, I have seen all of this terrorism unfold right in front of my eyes. And every time you talk to Kashmiri Muslims one on one or with their family, I visited many of them, you go and talk to them, you bring up uh, the genocide of Kashmiri Hindus, which happened in 1990, a couple of years before I went there, or you talk to them about the IED explosions killing the Indian Army soldiers, they would all smile. That was an evil smile. It was unnerving then. And when I think of it now, it's unnerving to me now. And when I put myself in the position of those women who were sitting in the meadows and who, upon realizing these are the Indian Army soldiers, out of fear looking at the ponywalas, the shopkeepers, and all the other Kashmiri Muslims sitting there and silently watching them, these women were staring at them, gazing at them with fear. That tells you everything. None of them came to the rescue. Nobody helped. All of them were led to uh, go on their own, watch their husbands, their fathers getting killed before their eyes. They were given the message, take this message to Prime Minister Modi. And then those women had to flee on their own. Now, towards the end, a handful of them were picked up in taxis after they called the cab drivers or ponywalas. A handful of them were picked. And what was it? Was it out of generosity? Or let's go back to the previous episode I narrated on the 20th of April when Ekta Tiwari and team went. A few ponywalas, they came and said, ma'am, it's not safe here, go back. And then some of them, a couple of them accompanied the entire group. Was it out of generosity? Did they want to save them? No. Okay. My suspicion is they wanted to create a narrative. They wanted to create a narrative that some of the ponywalas actually helped the tourists to escape. So we are not involved in this. These are all Pakistani terrorists. That's the deniability they wanted to create. But there is no reason to believe any of those things. I think absolutely every one of those people, all the hoteliers, all the shopkeepers, all the restaurateurs, all the ponywalas, everybody was involved in this, and all of them need to be investigated. And of course, she brought up a question about how did they travel from the border all the way up to here? And initially, the rumor was that they walked for a certain number of days through the forest and got here. I don't believe that one bit. Why? Because if there are, let's say, 4 or 7 terrorists, how many rifles, how many rounds can they carry and walk hundreds of kilometers from Pakistan all the way up to Pelgam? For how many days? How much can they carry? But now we have testimony. All of these rifles were actually taken on pony from below in Pelgam all the way up to the top, that 7 kilometer pony trek on ponies. That's how it was carried. So here is what happened. There was a very elaborate planning, which involves large sections, different agencies of Kashmiri Muslim community. These terrorists had been embedded within them, within this community. They had been protected. So weapons were transported, ammunition was transported. We do not know what else they transported. Could it be RPG? Could it be more? We do not know that. But all of these were transported, they were stockpiled, and then they were carefully shipped on ponies, as the testimony makes it very clear, all the way up, and they are still hidden in other places because they were bundled along with LPGs to conceal them, and then they were sent up. So this is how it came. So this was not an operation that was carried out uh, in a day. A lot of thinking went into that. A lot of planning went into that. A lot of weaponry was transported. And for all of this to be transported, you can carry that from Pelgam to Basaran Meadows on pony, but you cannot carry it across Jammu and Kashmir on pony. You have to carry it on other motorized vehicles. So all of those would have been engaged, and they were brought in, very carefully hidden, and then all the terrorists were provided safe houses by the local Muslims, and that's why they were not detected. And finally, I want to add one more thing. Most of the folks and even the media assumes that after shooting, the terrorists melted into the forest. That's impossible. That did not happen. Why? Because if they went into the forest, they are on their own. Okay, the government would have launched the drones, helicopters, and everything, and there'll even be patrols on foot trying to intercept them. The forest would be the first place they'll be combing, and they have spent days crawling through the forest, and obviously they cannot travel during daytime for fear of getting caught. So they'll be hiding, so that slows them down. They did not go to the forest. Why I am so sure of that? For two reasons. One, I said these fellows were uh, acting as the ponywalas. They were part of the ponywala network. Okay, they were hand in glove. So that means they were doing this recce back and forth multiple times over several days. They were planning everything. They were rehearsing everything. They were enjoying it. But the second thing, where did the firing start? The firing did not start on the forest side of the meadows. It actually was, they were firing at the tourists uh, from the gate side, okay, where the shops are. That's why all the initial killings happened near the shops. The first person to kill was a person, I forgot the name, and then his widow was narrating that story. The terrorist came, stood next to her, and asked, "Are you a Hindu or a Muslim?" And then she started laughing. She asked, "Who asked this kind of question in a tourist place?" Because we Hindus, we never ask these questions. Then she noticed something strange. He had a pistol, okay, tucked to his side. Then he then curtly told her, "If you are a Muslim, recite the kalma." She froze, and then before she could respond or anything, he took the gun, pointed at her husband, and shot him dead 3 times for not reciting the kalma. Kalma has to be recited thrice. For not reciting, he was shot dead thrice. Okay, so all of this shooting happened from the gate. So why do we assume that they would have melted into the forest? I think a more realistic possibility is that they finished all the killing, they came out, and then the women were panicking, they were hiding, and then some of them were hiding behind a small bund near the river, and others were trying to flee on their foot through the uh, the canopy of trees and other things. So these terrorists, they killed, they walked out of the gate, and then the ponywalas were waiting there to carry them back. All they had to do was to take out their fatigues, the military fatigues they were wearing, toss it out or pack it elsewhere, and put on that long sherwani, like that kurta like dress. And then once again, you look like a poniwala and then go back. I think they just went back and then they're waiting for the next strike. That's what should unnerve every one of us. Okay. What happened now is the beginning and it is not the end. And I suspect a lot more terror strikes will happen. And that's why I think the government has today canceled most of the travel into Kashmir because they are also expecting many more strikes. And I am absolutely certain that all of those terrorists, whether it's 4 or 7, I think the number is much more because of the number of rifles that were transported and other things. And because of that, I think all of them are waiting and they're all being provided safe haven by the local Kashmiri Muslims. There are no innocents here and they are waiting to strike, and there is going to be a lot more tragic event waiting to happen. Back to you, Sri Iyer.
Thank you so much, Kalavai. My heart is really heavy. When you look at it, very dispassionately and look at every step of the way. Viewers, if you can picture Jallianwala Bagh in 1919, right? The place had only one entrance, and when and Dyer parks himself there, and he lines up his shooters, gunners, and they are shooting into the crowd, and the crowd has only one direction to go and escape, and that was the gate. Exactly the same thing here.
Identical.
And there's one survivor who talks about going to the other side, lucky, and finding a gap in the fence and somehow sliding out of there, and luckily waiting there for some time.
You know
and
why?
Then,
you know why? He's an army officer from Karnataka. He had taken a group of 30 or 40 people with him. And as soon as the firing started, he right away realized that the terrorists are near the gate. So if we go towards the gate, we'll be sitting ducks. So he takes the group, and then either one of the fence was, bent or broken, or he bent it. He was able to get them out, hide behind the river, that small bund behind the river, and from there flee and then get out of sight. Okay, that's what he did, and that's how he escaped. But your analogy is perfect. It's like the Jallianwala Bagh massacre of 1919. These or 1920. These fellows were all uh, our Hindus were all sitting ducks, and then they were all brutally massacred there.
And viewers, some of you are asking, should I go to Vaishno Devi? Should I go to Amarnath? Please, for 2 years, don't even think of going to Kashmir. This is not, you cannot take anything else, you cannot do anything else to help the government, except that don't help these people by spending your money there.
This is a
They
very
have to
important.
understand one thing. They
I,
have to
I
understand one big lesson. They have been spoiled, pampered beyond belief for 75 years. We're going to give you a detailed analysis of how much money has been spent on pampering this lousy louts. And I'll give you that information in a few days. You will get all this detailed information. We are holding nothing back. You deserve to know the truth. Don't ask these questions to anybody. Don't go. Sir, you want to
share
say
one
something?
very important point, right? Uh, how did the Kashmiri Muslims respond to this? I do not know of anyone, barring one or two exceptions like Syed Rizwan, okay, who's an honorable person. That's out of 8 or 9 million Kashmiri Muslims out there. Or if you take all of India, there are like what, how many, 200 million Muslims or even more? Okay. Barring one or two very, very rare and honorable exceptions, everybody is saying, uh, इंसानियत की खातिल हुई है. Okay, so humanity died in Pahalgam. No, humanity did not die. Hindus died. Hindus were put through Kalma test and circumcision test. They were singled out and they were shot dead before their wives and children. And their wives and children were told to carry this message. This was terrorism on steroids. This is from the playbook of Islam. This is exactly what Muhammad did. And Muhammad, everywhere he went, he slaughtered the men before their women, ransomed those women, and then sent them back after the community paid ransom money, sent them back with the message, go and tell what happened. What happens when you resist the messenger of Allah? It's the same message these terrorists are playing according to the Islamic playbook in Pelgam. Then look at every Kashmiri Muslim. What is that they are most worried about? They are selling, they tell you, tourists Amara Jaan hai. That is, tourists are our livelihood. They are our life. They are our soul. Okay. They are worried about the loss of livelihood. That's why they are crying. They are not crying for the Hindu victims. And then nobody is saying Hindus were put through the Kalma test and circumcision test and they were killed by Muslim jihadis. That would have been a very honorable statement. Not one person said that except very rare exceptions like Syed Rizwan. That's one or two people out of what 200 million Muslims in India. Nobody else said that. They will hide behind all this code switching and all these pretentious words, euphemisms, where they will say humanity died. No, humanity did not die. Every victim was a Hindu except one who was a Christian, and every killer was a Muslim, and it was done in the classic jihad style by according to the playbook of Muhammad, the way he killed Jews and others in Arabia 1300 years ago. And that's why none of the Muslims and their collaborators, who are their collaborators, leftists in India as well as in America. Okay. American leftists are worse. Indian leftists are at least a little bit scared now because all of India is seething in rage. So they are at least now using the word terrorists. Even though they won't identify the victims as Hindus, they are using the word terrorists. They will avoid the religion. But American media, the leftist media is pathetic. Okay. It's downright criminal. Their entire messaging is tourists killed by militants. Okay. Why militants? Why can't you say terrorists? Why can't you call them Muslim terrorists, Muslim jihadis? And why can't you identify the victims as Hindus? Because they were killed for being Hindus. They were not killed for being tourists. They were not killed for being human beings. They were not killed for any other reasons except they were not circumcised and they could not recite the Islamic kalma, or they would not recite the Islamic kalma. But none of the American media will say that. No American leftists will say that because we don't matter to them. They care only about the Muslim vote bank. The same with the Indian left, but the Indian left is right now shit scared, so they are not opening their mouth. But they will be hoping the issue dies down and then they'll go back to square one. But we Hindus should realize after such a tragic, cold hearted killing, you have not heard a word of sympathy from Kashmiris. And in fact, there are other videos where they are aggressively confronting the journalists, and then they are screaming and trying to already portray themselves and project themselves as the victims. Having committed this aggression, having provided cover and patronage to terrorists, and still hiding the terrorists among them. Okay, they are still hiding among the Muslims of Kashmir. They are trying to portray themselves as the victims. And this is the exact playbook that unfolded during 10/7 when Hamas invaded Israel. And these guys went and then they killed the Israelis, 1,200 Israelis. But before the Israelis could even react, the Muslims started portraying themselves as the victims and they started protesting in Times Square, London, and everywhere. Now, I want to go to the next question, which is a big propaganda that's going on, not only in the Muslim circles, but also in the leftist media, which is, was there a huge security failure? How come, yeah, India failed to protect? How come Modi failed to have intelligence to prevent this tragedy? Okay, so let me answer this question. On 10/7, when Hamas invaded Israel, it took 6 hours. This is the point Abhijit Iyer Mitra brings out. He's a defense analyst. He brings out this beautiful point in a Tamil interview, where he points out that it took the Israelis 6 hours, Israeli military 6 hours to respond and get to the site of massacre. Whereas Indian army got there in 45 minutes. The soldiers were there on the ground. And remember, this was not an easy terrain. This terrain, you cannot even go on foot. Okay, it doesn't have a paved road or anything. That's why you go on a pony. So if you had to bring in a four-wheel drive, okay, with all the lift and everything, it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take at least 30 minutes to cover that distance. And Indian army was there in 45 minutes. And army cannot just like that rush in, because what if this is an ambush and what if they are having a RPG? So they have to send the drones first. India uh, sent the first drone 15 minutes after the shooting started. 15 minutes after the shooting started. Okay, and then the helicopters and then the uh, special forces were there in 45 minutes. So India's response has been fabulous. It's the fastest it can be. The military response was precise, fabulous, and fastest, given the very tough mountainous conditions out there and the lack of roads and other things. And considering the fact this is a very isolated place where there's not even cell phone signal, someone has to run, and then where they find a little bit of cell phone signal, they have to call. That's when the army got notified. Immediately they were there. Okay. Kudos to the Indian Army. Kudos to Prime Minister Modi for putting together all this plan. I want to bring up two more points. India had the last massive attack on 11/26 of 2008 or 9, forgot. Okay, 2008.
2008.
Okay, so after that there were a lot of small scale attacks until Prime Minister Modi came to power in 2014. After 2014, there have been one or two small attacks. Was there one? I think there was one in Amarnath in 2017, where I think 8 people are killed. And then there was one in Riyasi last year. I think again 4 or 5 people are killed. I don't know the exact number. I don't recall that. But apart from that, uh, despite all the threats India is continually facing, Modi has kept India absolutely safe. Every nook and corner has been kept safe. But with terrorism, intelligence is always suspect, because terrorists don't publish their itinerary and they don't say, hey, we are taking this flight, we are landing here, we are going to come and kill you. Okay. A lot of times the information leaks, and then the army or the intelligence agencies have to do a lot of tracking. A lot of them will turn out to be false positives, and you cannot, just because you get a threatening call at an airport, you cannot shut down the airport and cancel 300 flights in a day. Things don't work that way. So most of them will turn out to be false positives, but all of that intelligence will not come if the local Kashmiri Muslims or the hosts who are protecting the terrorists, who are facilitating the travel of the terrorists, who are hiding them, and who are providing all the logistic support. And after the terrorists have committed this gruesome killing, they are now hiding the terrorists amidst them. When this happens, no intelligence is going to slip out. So it will be very unfair for anyone to go and start blaming the Indian government for intelligence failure when it has actually responded in the most spectacular manner possible with great professionalism. And I would add one more sentence. If somebody starts expressing sympathy with the Hindus who were the victims, as well as with Sushil Nathaniel, who was a Christian, who was also a victim, he was also killed because he is not a Muslim and he couldn't say the Kalma, and he was killed. And if somebody said express sympathies with them, empathize with the Hindu victims and all the 26 of them, and then um, um, condemn Islamic Jihad and the Muslim terrorists who killed them, and make it absolutely clear you are opposed to all of them. And finally, after doing all of these things for 45 minutes, if somebody raises the question, was there a security failure? Was there an intel failure? I will consider that person to be genuine. And I'll give him an explanation I just gave you. I'll explain, no, there was no intelligence failure. There was no security failure. In fact, based on all the data available, the Indian government and security forces responded in the best manner possible. But when somebody is not doing any of those things, typically what the leftists and the Islamists are doing is to attempt the diversionary tactic where they will try to shift the focus from the brutal jihadi killing, halal killing of Hindus by Muslim terrorists. They will deflect attention from that, and then they will set up the straw man of intelligence failure. Don't get misled by that. And I have given you the answer. You should play it back to them. And in this case, we should not hesitate to point out the obvious, that the terrorists did not act alone. They did not arise in a void. They are part and parcel of the Kashmiri Muslim community. So it will be a mistake only to blame those who pull the trigger on the rifle and kill the people. Everyone who gave them logistic support, who hit them, who were in the know of it, and who are giving them cover right now, all of them are guilty. And everyone in the Kashmiri Muslim community who has been stoking this kind of anti-Hindu hatred is guilty. And let me say this about Kashmiri Muslims. 97% of the valley used to be Muslim. Now I think it's almost 100%. What happened to the remaining 3%? They were Hindus, and they were ethnically cleansed and made victims of genocide in 1990, when Kashmiri Muslims simultaneously announced from all the mosques in the night, leave your convert, leave or die. They said, when you leave your pretty women behind. And the neighbors, when the terrorists came, the neighbors identified who was the Kashmiri Pandit. And when they were hiding, they also said where they were hiding. Some of them were hiding inside the drums where rice was stored. And then the neighbors pointed out, go and check the drum. Okay, this person is hiding there. And at that time, a lot of the witnesses also in 1990, I'm talking about, a lot of witnesses also said the most frightening thing for them was those little Kashmiri Muslim boys. They'll be running around the street. They were the couriers. They will spot a Kashmiri Pandit and then they'll shout, Batte, and then they will run. Batte is the word they use for, Bhatt is the last name, right? So for the Kashmiri Pandits. So they'll shout Batte and they will run. That will be sending shivers down the spine of every Kashmiri Hindu, because that means this little Muslim boy has identified them and is the courier who is going to go and report to the terrorists. In a few minutes, they'll be here to kill us. Okay. So Kashmiri Muslims are not an innocent community. They have blood on their hands. And the least I will request, and look at all the Muslims in India. Okay. What happened when 10/7 happened? It has got nothing to do with India. It was between Hamas and Israel. But the Kerala Muslim community, they held a huge rally. They invited the chief of Hamas to come on a Zoom call and preside over the function. Okay, they identified with them. And every time a terrorist is killed and the funeral takes place, literally tens of thousands of Muslims show up for the funeral rally. How many Muslims have come out expressing solidarity with the Hindu victims, openly identifying them as Hindu? I don't want candlelight vigils. I don't want all that George Soros fakery here. Okay. So who stores that many candles in any household in India that you can all of a sudden bring out tens of thousands of candles and march on the streets? Enough of that. Okay. I am not going to fall victim for all this, a playbook that George Soros has created. And the more you do that, the less we will believe you. Okay. The first thing, if you want us to believe, use the word Hindu for the victims and the Muslims for the terrorists. That's what happened. And you will never do that. I know that. Okay. That's why I don't think there are any innocent Kashmiri Muslims. And look at the rest of India. Nobody has come out, and nobody from the Muslim community has openly condemned this act of terrorism without qualifications. Nobody has expressed solidarity with the Hindus. How are the Hindus going to respond? not with violence. I'll never advocate violence, nor will she advocate violence. But you have the democratic weapon on hand. If someone is seeking your destruction and not even showing you the slightest empathy when your own people are destroyed, the least you could do is to boycott them and shun them. The least you could do is to boycott all halal products, boycott halal economy. Next time, go and buy anything. It could be rice, it could be tur dal, it could be paneer. Just check the back of the packaging. And if it has anything like a halal stamp, halal certification, or if it has anything written in Urdu, put it down. Don't buy it. Tell the shopkeeper, I don't want halal product. That's why I'm not buying it from you. Walk away from that. At least you would not be feeding those who want our destruction. Back to you, Shreya.
Thank you so much, Venkat. Viewers, I'm going to show you one more video. This happened in London. An Indian supporter with an Indian flag is protesting in front of the Pakistan consulate. Please watch this thing till the end, and I hope really that you have liked this video. Somebody put a very nasty comment, and I just took that person out. We are going to start regulating our chat mode also, because it's a lot of negative energy, and those of you who are actually trying to absorb this thing, you read that and it takes you somewhere else. We have complete undivided focus on this one. This is something that I have come to having, being like one of you saying, no, they are innocent, only 1%, 10%. In the case of the Muslims in Kashmir Valley, I hold each and every one of them guilty, because I've had so many Kashmiri Hindu friends who have told me their stories, and even when they go back now, how their properties have been completely looted beyond recognition. And if there is something that is possible there, they've just gone and occupied them. No laws, no rules. It doesn't belong to you, but you bastards go and live there and complain about, you didn't do this thing, you didn't do that thing. I mean, I'm telling you, my blood is boiling, because I've seen the other side, how much they have suffered.
And I will
And
add
there is a
one
way to
one
fix this thing.
I will add one sentence to that, right? So one of the absurd argument that's always brought up is every Kashmiri Muslim guilty? Okay, I think you can stretch that argument to anything, right? Was every Nazi guilty? Okay,
Yeah.
was is what about the families of Al Qaeda and ISIS members? Okay, they have children. Are those children guilty? Okay, but then when American bombs fly, they don't distinguish between the Al Qaeda terrorist and his wife or his child. If they are in the same under the same roof, they are all going to die. But here is the fundamental argument I'm going to make, right? You cannot collectivize rights and privatize guilt. What do I mean by that? So when you want something, you invoke your collective identity. Okay, hey, we are this many percentage of the population, so we need this. Okay, so we need so much money. So we want to go on Hajj because we are having so many people. Okay, you are doing collective bargaining all the time. You are collectivizing your rights. But when it comes to assigning guilt, especially when you have acted collectively, like in this case, when you brought in the terrorists, you are still hiding them. You have not handed them over to the security forces. Nobody has stripped them off. Okay, that means the community is sworn to secrecy. So your crime is collective. So assignment of guilt will also be collective. It will not be privatized. Get used to that.
That's a very good point. This is what's going to happen this time. See, the thing here is, our politicians will always want to leave the door open a little bit. That is in their genes. Let's accept it that way. Okay. Some of you are saying, why is Kalavai Venkat praising Modi ji? He's not praising Modi ji. The response time was good, is all he is trying to say.
Correct.
The bigger picture is, see, Modi is the Prime Minister of India, God damn it, and there are 15% Muslims, whether we accept it or not. So they have to be taken care of, just like you and I, as long as they follow the laws of the land. This is where the problem is. So there are lots of challenges here. I'm just telling us, stay calm. First thing is, economically, you need to teach a lesson. Don't go to Kashmir. Some of you are saying Vaishnav Devi is in a pro-Sanatani region. Please don't get this brum. On the day of the swearing in of the third term, it was a Hindu area. That was where it was attacked. Don't be naive. Please don't be naive.
Unless otherwise the government announces an Israeli kibbutz-like plan. Okay,
Yeah.
Settle very large number of armed Hindus, not unarmed Hindus. Very large number of armed Hindus who have served in the CASF, ITBP, BSF, Army, and everything. On them, train them like hell, and get all the martial communities like Jats and Janas and others, settle them in large numbers there for every Muslim, for Hindus. Okay, gated communities and push them out, push the Muslims out. This is how it happens. Okay, you commit a heinous crime like this, there will be consequences. There will be collateral damage. Do that. When it happens, then we will have all of Kashmir. And besides, Kashmir is a Hindu property. Okay, it's the birthplace of Hinduism, Hindu philosophies and Buddhist philosophies. It was a great center of Hindu learning and Buddhist learning. Islam is a cancer that afflicted the state, that beautiful place 500 years ago. And the cancer has got worse. It has metastasis and got worse now. We will get rid of the cancer. Islam is the cancer. I want the Kashmiri Muslims to have contrition, to express real contrition at what happened, and identify the reason for that. They did all these things not because something is wrong with their genes. They share the same genes with the Kashmiri Dogras and the Kashmiri Pandits. They behaved in this most inhumane manner because of the Islamic teachings. I want them to renounce Islam and come back to Hinduism. Then Kashmir will once again become paradise on earth. The day it becomes paradise on earth, all the Indians, the rest of the world can go flock to that place. That will be a great center of learning of Hinduism and Buddhism again. But until then, don't go and spend your money on the Kashmiris, because then you are feeding the monster.
I'm just going to play one video. See, Pakistan is really scared because water has been stopped. This was not on the playbook. They thought something will happen. Somewhere India will come and strike again and they can play victim card. But water is a bigger problem because it takes long time to stop, even longer to start. And once the water is used somewhere else, that person is not going to be happy to give it up. So you have a huge problem. Let's watch this one video of an Indian protester in front of the Pakistani consulate with Indian flag. Just see what happens, and then we'll continue this discussion. Venkatji, do you have a few more minutes, because we are already at 1 hour and now lots of
I'm
questions.
okay. I can stay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, because I usually ask everyone for just 1 hour, and if it goes longer, I do need to tell them that there is more time. I need to get more time from you. So here we go. Just watch this thing, viewers.
The Pakistani High Commission building.
All right. So this is about 2 minutes or so. Just give me 1 second. I need to line this thing up correctly. Yeah. So this lady is supposed to be a journalist, and here is a protester with the Indian flag. What's the first thing that happened?
They attacked the Pakistani High Commission building. Pakistanis, and you're not answerable. Why not? Why not? What do you feel?
Yeah, this is
the reality is totally opposite.
What is the reality? You tell me.
Sikh tariqs is going on. There will be a big protest on 1st May out of Indian embassy.
What is the reality?
What do you say about that?
So you tell me the reality.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just.
So you don't want to tell me.
I'm just telling you the
So
truth.
you don't want to tell me the reality, but you're
I'm
telling me that I'm not giving you the.
I'm just telling you
Wake
the
up,
truth.
as they say, wake up.
There was an attempt. The last night there was an
Smell the
attempt. Just to take the highlight. Yeah, limelight. Just because of your hair out of the Pakistan embassy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just to take the
Not
highlight.
one word makes sense.
Limelight. Yeah.
Look at that helpless rage that is coming.
Sorry? Hello. We will
They
never
know
be
they have
Indian.
been
We will never be
completely
Indian. I'm a born
impotent.
Pakistani and I'm a proud Pakistani. Don't call me an Indian. I'm not an Indian, okay? The motive is different. Your motive is different.
I think you can turn it off.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
No,
the
no, no, there's
last
something
night
more
they
important.
attacked.
Just
They
watch.
attacked the Pakistani High Commission building. He's not doing anything. But why you're here, you try to instigate. You try to instigate.
Can I have-
You try to instigate. You try to instigate. You do not get physical. 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 Do not get physical.
You attack.
But why attack? They attack.
So here is the thing, viewers. A flag is somebody's property. That is being stolen, and he tries to retrieve it. Just think about what this lady who's wearing that Palestinian thingy on top. Okay, this is a Pakistani Muslim. She's a proud Pakistani Muslim. Venkatji, I'm telling you, there are drastic things needed. The time has really gone.
So you mentioned Palestine, right?
Hold on. Yeah. Go ahead. You finish your thought, and I'll finish mine.
So one of the terrorists, who shot dead Sushil Nathaniel, that Christian in Pelgam, He told his wife, this entire place will become Philistine. Philistine is the word they use for Palestine. Go ahead.
Right,
I just want
right.
to share that with you.
Yeah. So the problem is Indian politicians are really not listening; they are just hearing. The good thing they did was abrogate Article 370, but after that, every step has been to dilute the effect of that. First of all, they said for 6 months we won't let anybody outside of Kashmir to buy the property. Then they said you have to have be a domicile for 5 years before you can buy the property. What was the need for that? There was no government there. You've already got governor's rule. Why do you want to keep on diluting it? Then
I
they
am going to be
appoint.
very blunt on that, Shri Iyer, okay? I want Modi to act like Netanyahu and Trump. Okay. Netanyahu, when they came and killed 1,200 people, he flattened Gaza. Okay. Now, uh, whether it is Kashmir or Valley or Pakistan, go ahead and flatten it. Okay. So, because every action should have a consequence, otherwise it will continue. And let me tell one more thing. Okay. We should never be hesitant to go to war or inflict collateral damage because sometimes that's the most moral thing to do. Why I'm saying that? It may sound very counterintuitive. Take America, for example. 9/11 happened 23 years, 24 years ago. Okay. And at that time, what did America do? It responded with shock and awe. Okay. It was random, right? They went and killed the Iraqis. They went and obliterated Syria. They went and obliterated Afghanistan, everything. Okay. Sure. But uh, it had effect. Okay. America has not faced another major attack since then. 24 years, Americans have remained safe in America. Okay. And Muslims also know that next time you mess around with America, America will come and bomb every Muslim in any corner of the planet. So they behave. Muslims understand the language of force and they abide by that. And in this case also, if you are going to have conversation, if you are going to issue statements and all these things, that will not serve any purpose. Okay. First thing is economic boycott, halal boycott, complete shunning and boycott. That's the democratic thing. But people should never take violence into their own hands. But what the government should do is to do, Indian government should do what Israelis did to Gaza. Okay. The moment the entire community has behaved this way and it's not showing any contrition, it has to pay the price. Okay. The same thing goes to Pakistan because all of this was masterminded from Pakistan. So that should be a war. There will be a war and there will be collateral damage and we should not shy away from that. And we should inflict more of that so that this monster called Pakistan doesn't exist anymore. And eventually, hopefully, not Islam either.
Lot of questions here, but there is an underlying anger that is coming that I can sense from the questions. Viewers, we have the same thing. What we are trying to tell you is, as a citizen, as an individual, as a family, what can you do to make sure that the other person understands your hurt? That's why we are saying, toothbrush has a halal certification. What nonsense is that? If you ask them, they'll say, oh, anything that we sell into Dubai, we need to have a halal certification. Therefore, we are putting halal certification. It's very expensive to get halal certification. Don't buy the toothbrush.
I don't care what the reason is, right? So the corporations have to now choose between.
I'm just saying. See,
tell the corporations either you get Hindu customers or Muslim customers. Choose between the two. Okay.
Exactly.
Boycott it.
Exactly.
And then destroy their operating margin, their cash flow, and then go after the corporations. Anyone who advertises in all these leftist, like BBC is one. Look at their coverage today. Okay. BBC should have been banned from India. New York Times and all this leftist magazines banned them and then jail their reporters and editors who are sitting there in India. Okay. And spreading hate propaganda and becoming the mouthpiece of terrorists, jail them. Okay. I wish the government brings back that old, POTA and TADA acts, Terrorism Disruptive Act and the Prevention of Terrorism Act, and arrest all these guys. Okay. BBC, NYT, Washington Post guys sitting in India, throw them behind the bars, every leftist, because anyone who is expressing sympathy for the terrorists and trying to rationalize this deserves to be in jail forever or, sent to the heavenly abode or the hellish abode, whatever is reserved for them. Okay. But it is the duty of the Hindus to launch a systematic campaign and go back. Any corporation advertises in this leftist media, then send the message that we'll boycott you. Okay. Your share prices will tank. And then we'll run a systematic social media campaign to take you out of business. So everyone gets the message that you have to choose between the Hindu clientele and the Muslim clientele.
Let's take some questions now. First one, EQ focus. There's one or two people who have asked a lot of things that basically is anger, and I'm just not going to go through that. There are far too many questions to look at. Viewers, we understand your pain. This is what we are telling you. This is one way to try and set the balance right, because the Kashmiri Muslims need to understand the rest of India is pissed as hell with them. And they are not we are not going to take this thing anymore lying down. There is going to be geographical mapping, remapping, and just leave it at that. Okay, EQ focus wants to know, CG, does Kashmir want land only for themselves without any development? What if no tourists come, and what will they do?
Yeah. So I can answer that question, okay? Because I have spent a lot of time amidst them during the peak of terrorism in the early 90s. I know their psyche really well. Okay. They are religious fanatics to the core. Okay. They are uh, absolutely totalitarian, okay, intolerant people. That's my experience of Kashmiri Muslims. And they ethnically cleansed all the Hindus from there, okay, committed a genocide of Hindus in 1990. Okay, that's exactly what they want. They don't care about development. Okay, they are religious fanatics. And now people will say, right, look, after Article 370 was abrogated, and some of them they came out and they were celebrating the tricolor and all these things. Yeah, I mean, uh, at the time they didn't have to choose between Islam and modernity. Okay, in that case they'll try to embrace that a little bit. It's like, a lot of Muslim women in these fanatical Muslim countries, they'll be wearing all this, fashion lingerie and everything inside, but they'll be wearing a burqa on the outside. Okay, it's a strange combination, but then they carry on with that. But then if they have to choose between the two, we all know which one they will choose. They will choose Islam. Okay, that applies to Kashmiri Muslims also. And the problem with Kashmir is not land. The problem with Kashmir is not language, politics, nothing. It's religion, and that religion has a name. It's called Islam.
Next question. Karthik Kesiraju wants to know why intelligence agencies are not interrupting or interrogating JK politicians regarding this attack. Especially, they have to interrogate Omar and Mufti. Pretty sure they might have had a hand in this attack.
They absolutely should not only interrogate them. In fact, I call for this is the time when the entire country is seething in rage. India had two acts earlier, two laws, TADA and POTA. Okay, and those are not easily subject to judicial review. Okay, anyone indulges in treasonous act, anti-national act, terrorism act, etc., the government security forces can lock up that guy and make him disappear. Those laws were abrogated by the Congress party, which is an anti-national party. Now it's the time for BJP and Prime Minister Modi. This is my appeal to Prime Minister Modi: bring back both those laws. Nobody will dare to oppose. Anyone who opposes bringing those laws back will never come back to power. Okay, so all the opposition parties will either abstain or vote in favor. Bring it back and arrest all these politicians, including Omar Abdullah, Mehbooba Mufti, and all of them. They are all terrorists. They are all criminals. And Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey makes a very good observation. He calls them white-collar terrorists. Okay, they are the ones who sit inside the bungalows. They control the money flow, and then they instigate violence and hate against Hindus. And I use a different word. I say there are two types of Muslims: those who are field jihadis and those who are living room jihadis. Field jihadis are the ones who wield the rifles, and the living room jihadis are the ones who celebrate.
Next one, Samir Kumar Patanaik wants to know, wrong. I don't know what is wrong. Visit en masse and outnumber them, flood them with Hindus, let them fear the Hindus, not Hindus to fear them. Our soldiers are there to do the rest. So, Samir, it's not so easy. Please don't think that we just by flooding Hindus is going to happen. Dr. Swami had a very good idea, and he had said when 5,000 or 500,000 Kashmiri Hindus got driven out, he said, resettle 10 lakh ex-servicemen. Give them incentives like Kalavai Venkat ji is saying, build enclaves, secure everything inside the enclave with secure ingress, egress, so that ingress, egress, so that people know that inside this is a safe zone, and then start working that thing out. And once that becomes more stable, sustainable, then you start replacing the ex-servicemen with Kashmiri Hindus. And
But
that's why I
here,
said five. No, hold on. 5 years, when you put a moratorium saying that you have to be domiciled for 5 years. I mean, which brilliant genius gives these ideas to the government, and then they go on passing all these things? Then what the hell was the 370 abrogation all about? If you're
no,
saying that for 10 years you can't get the land there, why are you doing that? I mean, I have so many questions about the way that has been done
so,
since 2019.
Before you go into that
Yeah.
part, I think Samir Patnaik does have a good point. Okay. Do we have the time? Do we have the luxury of time? You and I both agree we don't. Okay. Because this toxicity, this Islamic toxicity, which has infected Kashmir, has spread. Okay. Let's look at both options. Okay. What Samir is bringing up, and the alternative is what you said. But I will, what you said was also articulated by Lieutenant General DP Pandey. What he said was, look, Kashmir used to be somewhat liberal until the 70s, okay? And then it became radicalized through the 80s and 90s. That's to some extent true, okay? And I do trust his judgment because he was a Chinar Corps commander who served in Kashmir for several years, and he understands that psyche. He does think that if the government uses both strong arm tactic as well as, makes an outreach, there is a hope to recover. Okay. I don't know how true it is, but the other alternative is we flood Kashmir with a lot of Hindus. Okay. I would say 4 Hindus for every Muslim there. Okay. That's what we need to attain. Okay. And assuming, General Pandey's recommendation doesn't work. Okay. Then this has to be our second consideration. So now my simple point is, uh, that's a great lesson that Netanyahu has taught. Okay, what did he do to Gaza? He was very humane, right? And for the first time in the history of war, he gave warning. He told everyone, "We are going to bomb this place. Get out of there." He made phone calls. He dropped flyers, and 800 in Gaza City. There are 1.1 million people. 850,000 listened to his humane appeal, and they left, and they are safe. Okay, and others did not, and they are paying the price. Okay, the others wanted to be shield for the Hamas, and they are paying the price. Now we should do the same thing. Okay, every Kashmiri should be now interrogated. Okay, and then first thing to do is to put them in a separate seclusion zone. Okay, and then de-radicalize them. That's going to take 3 to 4 years. That's something the Chinese are doing with the Uyghurs, and we have to do it in a more humane manner, not send them to, death camps and other things. But we have to completely de-radicalize them, and that means taking away some of their liberty and settling large number of Hindus there. And once these guys are de-radicalized and they are no longer Muslims, reintegrate them into society. But at some level, I think Samir brings up a good point because we are running out of time. Okay, what happens another 5 years, and then this radicalism gets worse. And even if 1% of the Kashmiri Muslims are willing to, or even 0.1% is willing to take up arms, that's like 8,000 terrorists. Okay, we cannot stand that. Okay, so sometimes when you know that here is the um, cancer that's going to attack you, you have to use immunotherapy to get rid of that upfront.
Manikrishnan Ramanathan wants to know, population exchange is the only permanent solution. Is this possible, leaving aside the political will? Fortunately, Ambedkar had recommended this.
No, first of all, I don't like all this glorification of Ambedkar. Okay, Ambedkar was basically a traitor. Okay, throughout the 30s, okay, he was partnering with Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He attended numerous rallies with him, and then he urged the Dalits. Okay, they were not called Dalits then. That was a term invented by rather invented earlier, but it was popularized by the American left starting in the 70s. I'm using it only as a shorthand. I don't like the term. Okay, but he wanted the Dalit community to become Muslims. He wanted them to convert to Islam. That's what he was campaigning for a long time. Okay, because he said very openly that way we can create more unrest within society. Okay, and first of all, he started singing a different tune only when it got closer to independence, because at that time the Muslims had started subjugating the very same Dalit community that was in East Pakistan, West Pakistan, this Bangladesh, and today's Pakistan. Then this coward, Ambedkar was a coward, and then he did not have the honesty to come out and admit, look, I advise my own people to trust the Muslims, become Muslims, and go and live in Pakistan. But now they are sitting ducks, they are being slaughtered by the Muslims. Okay, I did something wrong. I'm sorry. Okay, India, take them back. He did not do that. He pretended as if nothing happened and moved on. Okay, so I don't want to use him as an example, but population exchange should have happened in 1947 because at the time the Indian exchequer undivided India. The exchequer was 220 crores of rupees. Out of that, one fourth was given to Pakistan. Basis the fact that 24% of the population of the United India was Muslim. So they were given 25%, and they're given 27.5% of the land mass. Okay. But a vast majority of the Muslims stayed back, or a good chunk of Muslims stayed back in India, thanks to the two other traitors, Gandhi and Nehru. Okay, they wanted to do vote bank politics. They said, let Pakistan chase out all the Hindus and Buddhists and Christians and Sikhs, but we will not send all the Muslims out. Okay, we'll have them as a vote bank so that we can fatten ourselves for decades to come. Okay, so but that should have happened. But I think now how feasible it is, I don't know. But what we should
No, I think it's
really think
sorry.
yeah.
Kalavai, there's a simpler explanation than this. It's not
No,
that these two are thinking about vote bank. Let me
yeah,
tell you,
okay.
because the
Okay.
thought is, see, listen. At that time, they were not thinking about elections and all that. The simpler explanation is
They
Nehru
were
was a
dhimmis.
freaking Muslim.
Yeah.
He was a Muslim man. He will have to deport himself. That's why he
I
didn't
don't know
do
if
it.
he was a Muslim, but he was definitely dhimmi, right? He was a dhimmi covered. Okay. But the point is, at some stage, Islam does not belong in civilized society. Okay. There is a professor by name Salim Mansoor in Canada. He taught political science at the Western Ontario University in 2012. He went to the House of Commons in Canada and appealed to the House members to block the entry of Muslims into Canada. He said they are the very opposite of the liberal values that Canada stands for. Okay. So at some stage, the problem is not the people, right? The ancestors of today Muslims were Hindus or Buddhists. Okay. And they were made toxic by Islam. Okay. And hence they pose a danger today. So what we need to do is to get rid of Islam. And for that, we need to have free speech. We need to have First Amendment in India too. Okay. We can mock, ridicule Islam, attack it all the time, and make it impossible for Muslims to self-identify as Muslims and make them ashamed of that. And if we do that, in a decade or so, we can weaken that, and then we can work on reconverting them back to Hinduism. I think that's the only long-term solution possible. In fact, we should do that to Pakistan too, break it up into small places and convert them back to Hinduism.
Lokesh Chandra Bhatt wants to know, what about those Pakistani reaction channels that earn money by getting Indian views? Their numbers are also very high. Will they also get banned? Should I send you the list? Lokesh, that's already happening. I think
already.
That's happening already. Yeah.
Including Shoaib,
thank you.
This channel has been banned.
Yeah. And thank you, Mani Krishnan, for your generous donation. Let's take a look at, again, location. What about same thing? Okay. And thank you so much, Ace Music. And communal boycott, Kapil Sibal, also similar faces. Yes. Prashant Sanka, thank you so much for your super sticker. Last question. Amrut certification for Hindus, shame traitors. This has been going on for a while. There is something that is coming down the pipeline. Just wait for some time. You will have an idea. You will have an equivalent of this, so that it could be dharmic, for example, is another word that you can think of, or Amrut. There is something that is coming. See, this is not something that a government can do, because halal was not government. It's a private body that did it and popularized it. Why aren't the traders in India doing it? So
I am working on something. It will come out very soon. We'll talk offline. We'll announce one of
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Viewers, I hope this was as enlightening to all of you as it was to me. Kalavai Venkat is a very deep thinker, and he doesn't hold back. And in fact, I've become bold after talking to him and listening to some of his hangouts. Because when you have facts, when you have facts on your side, right? I mean, if somebody wants to still go ahead and attack you, well, you'll have to defend yourself. That can happen anywhere. Even a thief can come and attack you. He's not attacking you because you are a Hindu. He's attacking you because you have a watch that he wants. That's all it is. So thank you once again, Venkatji. And viewers, a lot of things to think about. For now, I would say economically, this message has to be sent. Indian government will do something. I don't hold out a lot of hope that Modi is going to do any kind of Gaza-style operation. There is another 4-letter person waiting in the wings. That person might. And again, we can only say that this is possible. When Modi lost the majority, he should have resigned. And he didn't. And he not only did he not resign, he appointed the entire cabinet in the same post. It's just interesting. But there could be other reasons for that. I mean, I'm not just going to leave it at that. Even Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't have a huge rollicking majority right now. He still gets things done. What are you going to do? So let's wait and see how this thing plays out. Venkatji and I will be back again in Tamil very shortly in a couple of days' time. Namaskar.
Namaste.